talk about Mamba mentality. What are you talking about? Like, I no goddamn Mamba mentality. Like, shut up. I hit a shot. Mamba mentality. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, I no goddamn Mamba mentality.
I thought I was the only one that
Oh,
felt that
like,
way.
give me a break. Oh, Mamba man, shut up.
Yeah.
Ain't even a thing for real. That's Kobe.
That's a four-time NBA champion, essentially saying the most feared mindset in basketball history was never really what people built it up to be. And the strangest part isn't even what got said. It's that the man at the center of this whole debate wasn't even in the room to hear it. Charles Barkley never actually fired back at Draymond Green directly, and honestly, he didn't need to. For years now, across countless interviews and TV appearances, Barkley has made one thing abundantly clear when it comes to Kobe Bryant. We're talking about a player with 5 NBA championships, an 81-point outburst in a single game, and 20 unforgettable seasons spent in a Lakers uniform. Barkley has consistently ranked Kobe among the greatest to ever step on a basketball court, and whenever he's asked to compare himself against the biggest names of today's era, his answer never wavers.
He's a great, great player, and I got him one slip behind Kobe Bryant. If he wins this year, I might put him on the same level, but until he wins another championship, in my opinion, he has not passed Kobe Bryant.
In Barkley's eyes, LeBron James lands just one notch below Kobe, and the only way he ever fully closes that gap is by adding one more championship to his resume. That's the bar Barkley believes Kobe cleared, and coming from a guy who rarely showers players with praise, that says everything you need to know. And this wasn't just some throwaway compliment tossed out to be polite. Listen to how Barkley actually talks about Kobe's game. It's unreal. These are the shots where you'd think, let's dare him to take this one, and he takes it anyway. That's just greatness. There's really no other word for it. Sure, some of those shots were heavily defended, great defense and all, but you simply can't stop greatness. Out of every word available to him, that's the one Barkley chose. Greatness wasn't just some convenient label for him. It was the only word he felt actually captured what Kobe brought to the floor every night. Hold on to that thought, because Draymond Green later suggested that the mindset behind that greatness wasn't even real to begin with. And that's really the whole debate in a nutshell. On one side, you've got a player making bold statements right after hitting a big shot. On the other hand, you've got a Hall of Famer who ranks Kobe just above LeBron James. But instead of leaving it at dueling opinions, it's worth hearing directly from the man who actually created the mindset everyone's arguing about. This is where the outside opinions fade into the background, and Kobe's own words take center stage. Draymond treats the Mamba mentality like nothing more than a clever catchphrase. Kobe himself described something entirely different. In his words, the Mamba mentality simply means striving to become the best version of yourself. That's the whole meaning behind it. It means waking up every day trying to get a little better than you were before. It's a constant pursuit, an endless one. For Kobe, it wasn't a slogan, it wasn't a trend, and it definitely wasn't just a hashtag. It was a non-stop chase towards self-improvement. And maybe even more surprising, the name itself wasn't born out of some carefully calculated plan. Kobe actually admitted he came up with the phrase almost as a throwaway joke while posting on social media.
Twitter, and I didn't know what the hell was going on with Twitter, and I just started throwing stuff out there, being my usual sarcastic self, and I threw out Mamba mentality.
On the surface, that might actually seem to back up Draymond's point if you're just looking at the words themselves. Maybe it does. But that's exactly where people get it twisted. The phrase itself was never really the point. What actually mattered was everything standing behind it. The real substance of it was built on discipline, preparation, and a level of focus almost nobody else could match. And Kobe laid out that system in incredible detail. He talked about literally studying the officiating rulebook, learning exactly where referees are required to position themselves at different points during a game. He read it closely enough to know exactly where a ref's line of sight would be limited, down to the specific slot official who might not catch a small hold in a particular spot. He didn't just study basketball plays, he studied everything. He went as far as reading the actual referee handbook, not the team playbook, but the guide officials themselves used to know where they should be standing throughout a game. He wanted to understand exactly where their vision had blind spots, so he could find every possible edge available to him. That same level of obsession showed up in every corner of his preparation. He mastered Phil Jackson's triangle offense inside and out, learned every defensive coverage there was to know, and broke down opponents until he understood their habits and tendencies better than they probably understood themselves. Every small detail became another chance to get sharper. Meanwhile, the guy repeating Mamba mentality after one big shot never approached preparation with anywhere close to that level of depth. And what actually fueled that obsession wasn't simply a love for the game, the way a lot of people assume. Kobe said it came from somewhere much deeper than that.
Isolation. Growing up over there and being the only. But yet when we come to play the game, that's my chance to get vengeance on them for not accepting me and that's where it kind of started developing.
It came from a deep desire to prove people wrong, dating back to when he was young and felt overlooked, left out, pushed to the side. He decided early on that the basketball court would become the place where he answered every single doubt anyone ever had about him. That was the real foundation underneath everything people later labeled the Mamba mentality, and it started way earlier than most fans probably realize. By the time he was just 13 years old, Kobe was already keeping something like a mental list of players he wanted to hunt down and outperform on the court. That competitive fire was already burning in him long before he ever set foot in the NBA. Now put all the pieces together: the non-stop studying, the relentless drive, the obsession with perfecting every small detail. That's what the whole foundation was actually built on. None of it was empty talk or clever marketing. These were daily habits, repeated relentlessly, day after day. And what did that kind of work actually produce? Massive, rapid growth. Kobe himself explained it this way: if you're training obsessively 2 or 3 hours every single day for a year, 2 years straight, you're not improving gradually, you're making enormous jumps forward. 2 or 3 hours of focused, deliberate work day in and day out, year after year, not just to stay level with everyone else, but to completely separate himself from the pack. That's not the profile of someone who hits one big shot and repeats a catchy phrase for the cameras. That's someone who approached self-improvement like an exact science, refining every small detail until it became automatic. And when all of that relentless preparation finally collided with the biggest moments the game could offer, the results looked almost otherworldly for Kobe. He described it simply: you psych yourself up for those moments, but if you've already taken that same shot hundreds, even thousands of times in practice, taking one more feels as natural as breathing. And if a player doesn't feel that same calm in the moment, in his view, it just means they haven't put in enough reps yet. Those high-pressure moments felt completely natural to him because he'd already lived through that exact scenario thousands of times, alone in empty gyms long before anyone else was watching. That kind of composure isn't something you can fake, and it's definitely not a slogan. It's the product of years of preparation most people never actually see. So really, the question here isn't whether Draymond Green's comments came across as disrespectful. The real question is whether he actually understood what he was talking about in the first place. And one of the strongest pieces of evidence on that front comes from someone sitting right next to him.
Kobe, number one. He had the master killer mentality. And I like to say I helped him get that. Talk about the 6 hours a day in the gym. Yeah, he did that just so he could show.
Shaquille O'Neal nodded along and laid out exactly what set Kobe apart. He talked about Kobe's killer instinct, describing how he trained for 6 hours a day. Keep in mind, this is the same teammate who won 3 straight championships alongside Kobe with the Lakers from 2000 all the way through 2002. And this is the same person who later suggested that the whole Mamba mentality wasn't really its own separate thing, despite having already described the exact habits people associate with it. Both of those takes came from the same man, but only one of them was actually rooted in what he personally witnessed inside the gym. Listen to how Shaq described Kobe back when he was just sharing what he'd actually seen. He called it alien, said that at 18 years old, Kobe would be in the locker room dribbling and shooting an imaginary ball for hours at a time, completely obsessed with becoming the best to ever do it. Shaq said he himself was obsessed with dominance, but Kobe's whole world revolved around working out. That's the exact word Shaq reached for. One of the biggest names in basketball history looked at an 18-year-old Kobe sitting alone in a locker room, running through imaginary shots with no cameras rolling, no fans watching, nobody telling him to do it, just him, alone, putting in the work. Moments like that helped build Kobe's reputation long before any championships ever came his way. So if Shaq turns around later and says the Mamba mentality wasn't real, he's not just pushing back on fans who admire Kobe, he's also contradicting stories he told himself for years. Charles Barkley never ran into that problem because his stance never wavered. He's told the same story about Kobe's work ethic and competitive drive from the beginning. In fact, Barkley has gone as far as saying the Kobe and Shaq partnership could have rewritten NBA history even further than it already did. In his words, if the two of them had stayed together, he genuinely believes they could have realistically won somewhere close to 10 championships. That's how highly Barkley rated that duo. And even after Shaq eventually moved on, Kobe proved he could still climb to the top on his own, leading the Lakers back to the NBA Finals in 2009 against the Orlando Magic, and again in 2010 against the Boston Celtics, winning both series. That proved his approach was never dependent on one specific teammate. It was something he carried with him every single day, regardless of who was standing beside him. What makes Barkley's perspective carry so much weight isn't just that he watched Kobe play from a distance, he experienced Kobe's competitive mindset firsthand. After Barkley once criticized him, Kobe reportedly spent hours reaching out with messages late into the night and into the early morning, determined to make sure Barkley actually understood where he was coming from.
Kobe Bryant wouldn't shoot the basketball against the Suns one year. I went off on him after the game. I said, hey, listen, we all big Kobe Bryant fans, but what he did tonight was just total bullshit. He wouldn't shoot the ball. He was trying to prove. I think he starts texting me after the game, calling me every freaking name in the book. And this goes on for about 3 hours. It's like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning now. But that was really one of the funniest nights of my life.
Think about what that actually reveals. Draymond repeated a well-known phrase after one big moment. Kobe, on the other hand, couldn't just let criticism slide without responding, because proving himself and improving mattered that much to him. That's the real difference between simply repeating a phrase and actually living by a standard every day. Barkley didn't learn about Kobe's mindset through documentaries or highlight packages. He lived it firsthand, phone buzzing before the sun even came up. And despite how intense those exchanges could get, the mutual respect between the two of them never wavered. Barkley recalled that the next time they crossed paths, Kobe told him straight up, "You were right." And that's exactly what Barkley admired most about him. Kobe was willing to admit, "Chuck, you were right and I was wrong." Barkley said he told him right back, "I love you, man, you were wrong that night." And Barkley wasn't the only one who saw that side of Kobe up close. Teammates and opponents alike have told strikingly similar stories over the years. And these weren't fans trying to embellish a legend. These were elite NBA players who actually competed against him and shared the court with him in practice.
Kobe Bryant turned into the reincarnation of MJ. That same shit that I was teaching him in those step backs.
He hit that three, yeah.
He's hitting it on me. This dude was prepping for this moment 3 years.
Some have gone as far as calling Kobe the closest thing to a new Michael Jordan, and that's not a comparison people throw around lightly. They've described how he was preparing for moments years in advance, moments most players only start thinking about once they're actually standing in front of them, not 3 days ahead of time, 3 years ahead of time. And behind closed doors, during what should have been ordinary routine practices, that same relentless approach showed up even more clearly.
He was the ultimate tester.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's going to test guys at practice to see who he can be in that foxhole with.
Yeah.
And if you didn't back down to him,
Yeah.
and you worked as hard as him, he respected you.
Yeah.
But if you
Big
back
time.
down,
Oh, yeah.
he had no respect for you.
Teammates have often described those sessions as a full-on battle, because Kobe attacked every single drill with a level of intensity most guys reserved for actual games. Story after story keeps circling back to the same habits, the same discipline, the same unrelenting standard. And with so many people describing nearly identical experiences, it's easy to understand why this debate is still going strong today. We're not on the same level. Those are Charles Barkley's own words about Draymond Green, taken from a completely separate disagreement. Barkley made clear he wasn't trying to punch down at anyone. He called Draymond a good player, but stood firm that the two of them simply aren't on the same level. He said he hears the comments people make about him, but he doesn't feel obligated to respond to every single one. Draymond's a genuinely good player who's had a strong career, Barkley said, but they're still not on the same level. And yet, that comment fits almost perfectly into this whole conversation. The person questioning Kobe's mindset is someone Barkley has openly placed in a different tier entirely. Meanwhile, the player at the center of this entire debate is the same Kobe Bryant that Barkley has consistently ranked just above LeBron James. One man made both of those judgments, and the gap between them couldn't be any clearer. Barkley's opinion never budged either. Even after Kobe's playing career ended and his influence stretched well beyond basketball, Barkley's respect for him stayed the same. And Kobe's legacy didn't stop at the sideline. In 2018, his animated short film, Dear Basketball, took home an Academy Award. Just like he did on the court, Kobe chased excellence in absolutely everything he touched. Whether it was basketball or storytelling, he simply refused to settle for anything less than his best. One tribute even put it simply, Kobe should have had the #1 spot. Rest in peace, one of the greatest to ever step on a court. So, was Draymond actually right? The clearest answer comes straight from Kobe himself, captured while his team led the NBA Finals 2-0. Asked if there was anything to feel good about being up 2-0, he simply said the job wasn't finished. And when asked again if the job was done, he said no, he didn't think so. Cameras caught him showing almost zero excitement in that moment, because in his mind, the work was still far from over. That wasn't a catchphrase, that wasn't something recycled for the cameras. That was simply the standard he held himself to every single day. Winning one game was never enough. Hitting one big shot was never enough. Nothing was ever truly finished until the whole mission was actually complete. Draymond called the Mamba mentality fake. Shaquille O'Neal at one point seemed to agree with him, yet his own stories about Kobe's preparation described that same relentless approach people associate with the phrase. Opponents called Kobe an alien. Others compared him to the closest thing basketball has ever seen to a new Michael Jordan. Time and time again, the people who actually shared the court with him told the same story about his work ethic and competitive fire. And Charles Barkley never needed to fire back directly at Draymond's comments because his stance has stayed rock solid for years. Everything Barkley has ever said about Kobe Bryant, a 5-time NBA champion, the man behind an 81-point night and an Academy Award winner, already settled this debate long before it ever became a headline. Now it's your turn. If you believe the Mamba mentality was the real deal, hit that like button and share this video with another basketball fan. And if you see it differently, if you think Draymond or Shaq actually made a fair point, drop a comment below and tell us why.